Hello everyone, how are you doing? I'm Wardy, and I'm super excited today to be talking about the new RTS from Uncapped Games that was just announced at the Summer Games Fest. This is a game I got to travel to California to try out in their studios back in March, and I've really fell in love with this game. It's a very new and fresh take on the RTS genre. It takes away a lot of what some people will relate to as being RTS, but to me, it keeps a lot of what is very fun about RTS as someone who is a big fan of the micro and the engagements and the battles. Like I said, I've really fallen in love with this game. It's a game that the more you play, I feel like the more you get out of it, the more you enjoy it, and it's very definitely one you want to keep an open mind on going into because it's definitely maybe not what you expect. But I really feel like this game has a lot of potential. I absolutely, like I say, I adore it. I think if you play it, you're very likely going to enjoy it as well. So definitely keep that in mind as we go through. What we've got today is a video where I'm going to start out by explaining some of the basics of the game and kind of how it works, and then we're going to cast a couple of games as well, just to kind of see some games. These are games recorded by the devs, David Kim, one of the lead developers, against Stefan, who's also one of the lead devs on the game. These guys are definitely some of the best in the dev team at playing it. And so we're definitely excited to kind of see these. These are recorded from a first-person view, so it's not perfect for casting and stuff and explaining exactly. We don't have access inside of the game just yet. But we will do our best just to show you guys all the different parts of the game. And like I say, we'll kind of use this first game as a way to kind of pause, look at things, etc., and explain what's going on. Then we'll do like a cast or two of games afterwards as well, just so you guys can see how fun and interactive this game can be, because it is fast-paced, it gets going very quickly, and everything else. So let's dive on in. Like I say, we'll do some stopping and starting on this one to explain it. As we start off, you are going to see that this is a base. So this is your first base. It starts off, and as you spawn on in, a few things I want to point out straight away. First of all, timer at the top. The max game length in this game is 10 minutes. So you can only spend 10 minutes in game, so it's a really good game for getting in, playing. Game's over, cool, let's queue again. It doesn't have that kind of like kind of unknowing of like, oh my god, if I queue into a game, I'm going to be stuck in like a 35-minute long macro game. 10 minutes is the longest that these games can get, and that's because it is fast-paced, high action, things go quickly. What I want to draw your attention to is this bottom left-hand corner. This is where you're going to basically be doing pretty much everything. So just to explain this bit by bit, our red resources, I believe, is called requisition. That's basically your minerals or basic resource. The blue resource, I believe, is called power. That is kind of, if you're coming from StarCraft, your gas resource or your techier resource. And then the yellow symbol is just the supply that you have. I believe it's a typical 200 supply max out. Resources mined from your workers, which automatically come with bases. You do not have to build workers. So your workers spawn in when your base spawns in, and we'll talk about spawning in bases in just a moment. So that is a guaranteed amount of money per minute for each worker on the map. Each base comes in with all those workers. You can lose workers. You can't run them away from harassment, but there are ways to defend them from harassment. And so worker harass is very much so a thing, and it is impactful. What you see here as well is, I believe, tab, and there's a couple of buttons which basically allow you to select army, select this, or go back to this building menu, and then you see 8 different units available to be built. Part of this game is the deck building, and that's what it's called. The deck is basically selecting a deck of units that you're going to go into the game with. So you get 2 slots for what they call core units, 2 slots for the first tech slot, which is the foundry. There's 2 slots for the Starforge, which is the next tech slot, and then you've got a couple of extra tech slots as well. So overall, you can make 8 units in the game that come from various different levels of tech, and so there's a lot of mixing it up and changing in this game. And that's one of the things you'll notice is that this is not a game where one player is going to play 8 units every single time, as there's different maps and so on in the future. Certain unit compositions are going to be better. Against certain players, you might want to add in certain units as well. There is so much potential. This game is designed with the idea of swapping and switching out units a lot and playing a lot of different styles of units. This is not just like get good at one set of units and you're going to be good forever. This is going to be a bit of mix and match, and sometimes you're going to go in game and you're not going to have the best unit comp against your opponent, but you're going to have to figure out how to execute despite that. So that's a really fun part of this game. I think it's actually really cool. Like I say, it's a very fresh take on RTS. That's something that doesn't really exist in other games. I know Crossfire Legion, for example, I think had something similar to this, but this is like really out there. Like this is like, hey, commit to this set of units or so. And to finally finish explaining the bottom left, Z, this button down here, this one is how you build a base. Bases cost 400 of your resource, and you just press it and the base builds. And when you press it, the base will just build on the next available location to expand to. So you can already see on the minimap that there's a red dot just outside of the main base and a green dot over here. That's because both players have basically gone for an expansion first build. When you load into the game, you have money to start an expansion. That's exactly what both players have chosen to do here in the first few moments. So it's an expand from both, and that is the first choice you can make. The other choices down here are also going to be teching. You can either tech to the Foundry or the Starforge. And then beyond that, once you go to Foundry, you can also go to Advanced Foundry for even further tech for Tier 3, or for Starforge, you can go to Advanced Starforge for Tier 3 Starforge tech. So you basically get a choice between expanding, teching, or doing the other tech, and then teching further or expanding. And these are the choices you make. Again, very simplified macro elements of the game. And so, like I said, very different. You're not going to have to go and select a worker and go build a foundry or anything like that. You can just be like, hey, I want the foundry. I'm going to build that once you have the money for it. So that should explain everything that's on screen right now. Like I say, we'll kind of take some moments to pause as we get going. As the base is built, and oh, that's a great moment to pause. So what you can also see in this game is that baseline scouting is given to you. So this is a button you can press to bring up the command cards, and you can see the deck of your opponents. You can see what's being played. David Kim is playing something called Gunbots, and Stefan is playing the Blink combination. We'll talk more about units and unit abilities in a little bit. But what you can also see is all the other units available to your opponent. And what's also interesting is you can note this game is from David Kim's point of view. He can see his opponent has expanded. He will also be able to see on this tech card what tech his opponent is building into. So the basic level of scouting is given to you for free. It takes out that first kind of like, hey, I need to see what he's doing. You actually get that information. What's really cool is that doesn't give you free information completely. Because there's a lot of times where you can build a tech, but you don't know which of the tech choices he's going into. So scouting can still be very important in terms of where are attacks coming from. What exactly is the composition I'm playing against? It's a little interesting. Like I said, it's definitely a fresh take. And this was something which I think a lot of people were like, whoa, is that okay when we first played it? In the essence of this game, personally, I feel like it works brilliantly. Like I say, it's definitely very new. It's very different. But I think this was actually a really kind of cool thing. And it's definitely something you can play around as well. And because of this also, there's this interesting thing that's maybe getting a little bit advanced, but you can't cancel when you start to build an expansion, can't cancel it. When you start to build tech, can't cancel it. So there's no like, I'm going to start building this, then cancel because I'm faking you out, I'm actually going to build that, or, oh, I see you've built that, I'm going to build that instead. You're kind of setting, the game is kind of designed that you should be able to have a chance based on your decisions, or you're meant to make decisions that give you a chance based on everything your opponent can do. So it definitely gets interesting. So like I say, that scouting element is definitely very intriguing, a little bit different to usual. Now what we're typically going to see here is David Kim not doing much for a moment, because units build instantly, which means that you don't need to queue them up, and they all build out of your main base. So they come off of this command card. When they get built off of the command card, they just spawn out the main, go to whichever rally point you set. So a lot of the time at the start of the game, you'll see players saving up to like 300 resources and then building 6 of their initial unit at once, and then going out on the map and doing something with those and saving up money, because that's when the money lines up to build your next set of tech or your expansion or something along those lines. So the units do build it instantly, which is a little bit less punishing. You don't have to constantly go back and build kind of during fights. But it is better if you want to do that, because you'll have some of those units getting into position more quickly. So it is, once again, that idea of scaling down the required like entry level of like, oh my goodness, everything's going on, I can't remember to build. You can still get all your units out. They just might not be everywhere you need them to be as quickly if you're doing them in big chunks rather than kind of building a slow stream of them. So David Kim builds a few gunbots here. These gunbots, when he selects them, you will see have an ability, which is right here. So as we can just take one more pause, the command card now has an ability. This is essentially, if you're from StarCraft, a stim pack. It increases the speed of the gunbots and increases their attack speed, I believe, as well. It has 3 charges, and the charges recharge over time, with a maximum of 3 being able to be stored. And that's just the ability of the gunbots. There's a few abilities in this game. What I would say about abilities is they're all on a fairly simplistic level. For example, gunbots have this stim effect. I think it's called overcharge. Blink units have a blink where they can teleport forward a short distance or backwards a short distance, and that's on like a 7-second cooldown. And then there's also recall units that can recall to a base on a frequent basis. They're really cool. It actually opens up a lot of different playstyles. And I feel like I'm probably forgetting one kind of ability. Like I say, there's not a lot of abilities, but the few abilities that do exist are very cool and different. I'm trying to think. There's abilities such as some units can siege up, for example, as well. I'm trying to think if there's anything else off the top of my head that units can do. But I think that's actually kind of about it. So like I say, there's a few abilities, but there's not a ton of abilities. A couple of units have similar abilities. For example, the gunbots, their anti-air partner has also this overcharging effect, so they can run around a bit faster. There's blink, and then there's like anti-air blink guys as well. So a few of these guys kind of share those abilities, and they're not overly complex. This is not a game where you've got to learn like each unit has 2 different spell casts or anything like that. The amount of spell casting is fairly limited. This game really focuses on the straight up micro and the battles. So with all this introduction information given, let's see how this game plays out. I might pause again if I feel like there's something more to explain, because this game goes fast, which is why I'm pausing. If I tried to explain all of this during the game, it would have just gotten a little bit crazy. So let's see what goes on. Right now, we're just setting up. We're playing against Blink, Gunbots against Blink. Gunbots kind of want to stay at home. Blink units will be pretty good again on the map, harassing, maybe grabbing units, backing away. And as you can see here, we just got to a point where the expansion comes down. So we start to build the expand. This is the last thing I think I need to explain, actually. I'll just pause one more time. But when you build the expansion comes up immediately, but it will take about a minute for the workers to spawn in. So it's not instant gratification, build the base, resources start to mine. The workers take a while to spawn. Once the base has been built, so that base is there, you can recall to it, for example, if you played recall. You have that location, you have that vision, but you don't have workers on it for a little while. So that is one of the last things to explain, that the base builds instantly, but the workers aren't instantly there. So here are the few blinks, and they're going to come in and harass, and we're going to use one of these overcharges to chase away the blink, and that should be where the blink just kind of pulls back. We pull back everyone there. Typically, once you force that overcharge, blink do not really continue to trade against gunbots, as this is going to continue to be pure gunbot for the moment. We're not teching up. We're putting our money currently into gunbots and expanding. However, we're getting to the point where we might be able to start up some tech right here, 400 power in the bank. And so we will probably use something once this fight is done and build something up. What are we going to go for? Okay, there we go. Foundry. And both players start Foundry. I want to just go back on that just one little second just to show you guys an example. So right there, in fact, no, pause. So you can see now Foundry is, you heard Foundry is building or enemy Foundry building. The Foundry for Stefan on the other side, this is what I mean about the vision. So now you know, oh, he's going to have access to Shockers and King Crabs. King Crabs are one of the best units, by the way, guys, just let you know that. So you get that information, and David Kim, he's going Foundry. The only unit he gets off his Foundry is this Raider. That's a worker-only, a unit that can only attack workers. That's actually a new one we've not gotten to play with yet. A lot of his other tech, these are Starforge units on the bottom, and these are advanced Foundry units. So he might have to go further on his tech tree to really get access to more of his units. That's not always true. For example, you can see Stefan gets access to 2 units off of his Foundry, and that's part of kind of building up the deck. So that's kind of, kind of pre-game, kind of choosing what deck you go into the game with. Those are the options given to you. David Kim's going to play a fast-paced run around the map game. Stefan's going to have one bigger, larger army, and I think David Kim's going to be having to try and get up to his tier 3 tech to really see some chunkier units and so on. So like I say, gunbots typically are going to be a bit more defensive in this matchup for a long time. You will get a lot of them. Like, these things mass up a little bit more than blink units. But the blink has the value of being able to get in, blink out, and this is exactly what blink does a lot of the time. Hits the base a little bit, puts some damage out. The moment that these gunbots start to deal damage, you want to be bringing the herd blinky boys backwards. You can get in and kill a gunbot or 2 and blink out, but that really should have been already some of the herd guys kind of a bit further back as another expansion comes in. So we're going to 4 bases already here. 2 minutes into the game, we're getting to 4 bases. Each tech trees are being established. There are trades and units already coming about. Like I say, this is a very fast-paced game where action happens very quickly. These gunbots, actually pretty good against the King Crabs. I think in this case, Stefan is probably going to want to build the Shockers. The Shockers should be very, very good against these kind of basic units because it's a big splash damage unit. The King Crab is like a melee splash damage unit, so it's good, but the gunbots can target it down and kind of kite them back very easily, whereas the Shockers can get those shots off from afar. You see our first Raider being built, and those are going to be the guys that run around, and they kill workers quickly. I'm not sure about this unit because I've not played with it. In theory, they're very quick to kill and very quick to shut down, so if you have anything in position, not much is going to happen. You can see here, these are the King Crabs on the top, so we have gone King Crabs. Like I say, I'm not sure about that versus just going for something else. We do get the information that these Raiders are on the way in, and units are in position on both sides, so I think we lost like 1 or 2 workers. And yeah, we're going to be able to just kill those off. However, the gunbots have made their way to the bottom right. They're going to go after a base, and this is going to be a base forward base because the top left King Crab attack ended up taking out the upper left base here. So this is a base forward base right now. And we're going to go full base trade motion as we are just going to go. This does not typically always end well because units obviously you can kind of stack up resources and build all your units at once out of the main base. So defense can eventually be found. This is just an awkward scenario where David Kim basically said, I'm not sure if I really want to go and fight against you right now. You can see David Kim's got a lot of money, but he just got to his advanced foundries, to the second tier of tech, and now you can build some of these very powerful units. These are ballistas. They're going to be great at kind of just dealing splash damage. I'm not even sure what that other unit is as well. That's another new unit, as we're going to see a big fight breaking out, and this is the power of saving up that tech, as we did lose the natural. However, we've got all this high-tier tech online now, so David Kim going for the base trade, buying time to get the tech up and available, and now he's going to go for one big push across the map. Is that... I actually don't know what that is. I'm trying to look it up. I think that's a Behemoth. That is a new unit to me. Apparently, it's strong against splash damage. It's weak against burst. It's one of those units which it's very tanky. It deals big damage to kind of big units like the King Crabs. As we push across the map here, David Kim is only on one base. So he's essentially saying, I'm all in right now. I let this get to a point where, I've basically built up one mega army, and I'm hoping that your choice to kind of go a bit further onto my bases is going to backfire on you. He's going to build a couple of these Behemoths right now and ballistas to try and deal with this counterattack as we enter the base trade. And that tech unit force is just going to be so good in comparison. His opponent has built advanced blinks, by the way, so that's also a new unit I've not played with. I'm not sure how that works. I imagine they're just kind of like a better blink, like a higher tech blink unit. Super excited to try those out. But in this case, David Kim has just got a little bit too much power on the base trade. I do think, looking back on this, I think I would have loved to have seen those shockers out of Stefan a little bit sooner, because I do think the shockers are really good against the gunbots, and that could have absolutely been a way to kind of work on some of that splash damage and all the rest of it. So, yeah, really, again, fast-paced games, like I say, guys. Like I said, this moment, it all kind of goes and gets committed, right? We start trading bases. David Kim is saving up for those tech units and really is able to make the call like, hey, if I enter a base trade, this is what I can do against it. This game has so much potential. In this case, it might be like, well, they just ran across the map and killed each other's bases. That's just kind of part of the strategy. That's one of the options available to you. Again, when you kind of start seeing some of these bigger fights and engagements in the micro, it's super fun to play, and it's super fun to try out. So I hope this was a great little explainer opener. I think we're going to cast another couple of games, and you guys can see how much, see what you like and see some different unit compositions and all that kind of stuff. So let's jump into something else here for a game number 2. Alright, we're going to go into game number 2 here, as we're going to see some different units coming up, as we are going to see some different decks. So this is going to be very fun, as we are going to be seeing a very different style of play. Immediately from David Kim, you're going to be seeing Wasps. These units are very fast going. They are, if you're a StarCraft fan, they are the Zerglings of StarCraft 2, of this Uncapped Games RTS. As that little beep was in the game, guys, in the recording, so sorry, can't stop that. There's going to be, for the moment, Hornets as a combination with Wasps, although we'll probably just see Wasps initially. Hornets are great, speedy anti-air units. This is a very fast-paced attack. When we played this game in Alpha, this was the sort of style that Parting absolutely loved. He was all over the map using these things, attacking everywhere. You can be very quick into being aggressive. You want to expand a lot with these units because they're really about harassing worker lines and then kind of just, out-expanding your opponent. Your opponent can never move out. Haven't seen what the unit composition is from Stefan yet. We are going to see that right there now. It's going to be gunbots. So gunbots are pretty decent against Wasps, actually. Most units are decent against Wasps if they take the right kind of fight. What you don't want is to have too many of these units kind of caught out of position or anything, as those dings just keep coming in. Like I say, that's on the recording, guys, so sorry for that, as the Wasps will jump onto this third base, and then Wasps are going to go on the natural, so this is where the gunbots need to split up, and I think this is a bad split because there's too many gunbots on the front and not enough further back, so these Wasps are going to get quite a few workers initially. This is what you want because these Wasps are not going to trade well deeper into the game, so you're looking for value, and look at David Kim. He is just spamming more and more units. He starts the Starforge as well. I believe he's probably going to go into... yeah, I think he's probably going to go into like a lot of these kind of like just combine very fast moving units and play a very aggressive game throughout. I'm going to come for a wraparound here. This is one of the things you can do with these Wasps, trying to find surrounds up against the edge. Those gunbots are going to keep themselves with a little bit less surface area though, and so the Wasps have to back away. And that means that David Kim is just going to be falling back and trying to go elsewhere for the moment as he falls back. Again, he's going for that Starforge tech. That's going to open up a couple of different options to him. He's going to have Dragonflies available, I believe, is one of the units he's got in his deck on this one. And he's also got the Stinger, which is also a fast-paced a fast-paced unit off the Starforge that's actually on the ground. That kind of makes it it's very powerful. Again, you're kind of building a very cheap-to-build, powerful army. And you can see a lot of harassment damage being done. The powerful point on the opponent's side of this, though, is that these are still very weak units. And if you can get some splash up, this is going to be absolutely huge. Let's see what David Kim builds with the Starforge up. I wouldn't even hate the Dragonflies. Great unit to kind of go and harass around the map with. And you're going to see some of them starting to fly out. So I'm going to start flying these towards bases and check if your opponent has anti-air. He actually does bring it up there, so it's going to be shockers and something else from Stefan. He's really very quickly tapping that information tab. So we can't see super easily. I think he's going to be playing the... Oh, yeah, that's a new unit as well. Man, with so many newer units right now, it's kind of fun. Yeah, even since we last played, they've added a whole bunch of units, and that's what this game has, the potential to just keep adding units, keep changing things up. I believe that's the Heavy Hunter, which is actually kind of a good anti-air unit, which is probably built because he's seen because he saw Starforge tech on the way. So yeah, he's going to be able to get there. He's going to be able to defend the anti-air or the air units. However, does he have enough on the ground? Oh, they're the shockers. These are what are going to be a little bit better against those wasps. Getting that splash damage done. So that's going to be those balls of lightning whacking into this army. And so the everything else has to kind of pull back there. The Stingers as well, they have to pull away. Those are going to be kind of the techier units now in David Kim's force outside of those Dragonflies. The problem that David Kim's running into here is he has good harassment. He has good kind of, run around the map potential. But if he gets forced into one big fight, I think he could still end up in trouble. That's why it's important that he's still killing workers and still trying to force his opponent into a little bit of a worse position overall. Those Dragonflies get pushed back. Obviously, just keep them away for now as we are going to take this fight here. Do we have everything else? Yeah, coming in from the south side as well. More of a concave actually set up, and the gunbot's able to really take a decent engagement. David Kim has to go running away, but he's actually going to go diving for the bases. So he's going to realize, I can't take a straight-up fight. I want to cause trouble. I want to cause chaos. Reinforcements come out of the main base, though, and they are going to be able to take get a lot of damage done. Now, the shockers don't last very long when they're jumped on top of, and so David Kim will clean up these reinforcements, but at the same time, the main army is across the map, and once again, we're actually going to end up in a little bit of a base trade situation, as David Kim just doesn't want to fight with this army. He knows that this army is weak. He knows that this army is a little bit kind of flimsy in a straight-up battle, so he's going to run around and take out bases instead. I think he probably wants to come back home and bring everything back to try and take a fight. Like, he wants to basically surround this army with the army from the upper right at the same time. I think that's pretty much the only way he's going to be able to have a chance here. I think he's going to be unable to really do anything else. So yeah, he bought himself time to get back. Let's see if it's going to be enough. Those shockers are going huge. The gunbots, so many of them when they're stacked up, the wasps just cannot get any sort of surface area. And that is the problem with this wasp style. If you do not do enough, if you do not cause enough chaos, you run into trouble. The Dragonfly is coming in to help out as well, but you can see it's just not going to be enough. This army is going to be a little bit too powerful as David Kim tried to buy himself time. He just didn't get quite enough done. I think he needed more worker damage dealt, as he's going to try and build a few final units, but he has no hopes. And that is going to be GG's, and Stefan is going to take this game. Another little base tradey situation, but this time we truly do turn around and try and fight that army because we recognize the base trade isn't going to go our way. And that is going to be a round out. So that's another game. Again, a few more units being seen. Again, there's a lot to take in. There's a lot of different units in this game. So let's go dive into another one and just watch one more game, guys. I think is going to be what we do. Alright, so third game here for us as we continue to check out this Uncapped Games RTS. You're going to be seeing a Blink composition here from David Kim. This is my personal kind of composition of choice. The build here is typically expand into 6 Blink boys, and then we can use those to go onto the map while we choose to tech or go into another expansion. So, expansion going down is going to be against gunbots and destroyers, so I kind of like this matchup for Blink a lot of the time. You can really, against gunbots, kind of run in, take a trade, back away. There's certain times where the gunbots can mass up enough that Blink can have a tough time. That's where the tech units are going to come into play, and we'll see how that pans out a bit further down the line. So there's going to be a few of those Blink initial units coming out. There's 2 different types of Blink units initially. There's the Blink and then the Advanced Blink, or the Blink Hunter, I believe. The Blink Hunter is an anti-air version of the Blink unit. It costs a little bit more kind of the secondary resource, but a little bit less of the first. So it can be kind of interesting as well, where it's like you can actually get more of them up if you're just looking for a massive units, because you're not limited by one resource. The resources spread a little bit more. So you actually see one of them in the back here. The little guy is a Blink Hunter, the one that looks different. So he's just Blink. He can fight the ground as well, but he's the only one that actually has anti-out of this Blink army. Mostly just building Blinky guys, though, as we get into a point here where we're going to be choosing to probably expand third base time. So both players take a third base. We do have tech on the way up as well. Both players have decided to tech. As I said initially, after those first 6 Blink units, you can actually afford your initial tech after after an expansion. So that's typically just how this build works. So we get the tech on the way. And we're just seeing some skirmishes here, going back and forth. Obviously, the Blinks don't want to kind of commit into the gunbots. I feel like you kind of want to commit a bit to force those overcharges that the gunbots have. Force them to kind of use their ability. As we're actually building some Crusaders right now from David Kim, I believe. So he's going to get some of these initial tanks up. And they really do act as tanks, essentially. They're going to get in the front. They're going to be very tanky. They're going to try and hold on. and they're just going to try and... I believe these are just single damage or single target damage units, but again, they're tanky, so you can see the gunbots actually I think are pretty good against these because they can just stim backwards and they can just pull back and kite. Good micro though from David Kim. He's going to pull the hurt Crusaders to the base, and that means he can zone the gunbots away with the blink units, and then he's going to have damage already on this base, and by forcing those gunbots back, he's going to be able to turn onto this base before getting into a retreat. That's going to be a denial on this third base. So David Kim is able to take a base out, and Stefan is unable to defend against that. He has got a fourth base coming up bottom right side. You're going to send the Crusaders over there to try and shut that down already. If David Kim can get rid of that base as well, he's going to be in a fantastic position. Here comes some shockers, though, and those are going to be big AoE units in the background of this gunbot army. Blink units, actually, last time I played Blink, the best way to deal with this is to actually just go and get on top of them. The shockers fire a bit slow, so you absorb one bad shot, but you've targeted down 3 or 4 of them by the time they shoot again. Crusaders are going to get the bottom right base, so we are going to see the fourth base denied, the third base denied from David Kim. Without his Crusaders there, he was not sure about taking an engagement. He's going to pull back and just defend 2 bases now. So very fast pace, getting up into a lot of bases, but then neither player really able to find a defense. And at some point, we're going to have to start defending, as I think that's going to be David Kim's plan. Not looking to base trade for the first time out of this set of games. He's going to lose another base, though, so he's just going to give up even more space. What is he waiting for? He's about to have another tier of tech coming online, and he's going to be able to start building these guys. It's the snipers. So the snipers are, I've not played with them yet, but boy, do they do damage. Look at them go from far enough away that they're able to take down a lot of these tech units as well. A couple of destroys in there get jumped on, and it just means that the blink units can hold back, and those snipers look sick. This is a unit which is a really good answer for a lot of the things we struggled with in Alpha. And they just, as you can see, they're kind of slow moving, but they just did a lot. I had no idea what they were going to be able to achieve there, because like I said, I've not been able to play with these yet. But getting a last-second defense on that base, and that's a moment where it's just an overcommitment in from Stefan. He kind of felt like he had it, but he didn't account for the resources that David Kim hadn't spent. So he overcommits into the base, he takes a fight that he probably shouldn't have taken, and he ends up getting pushed back. And loses a lot in the process. Now, he still had an extra base up during this. Is that enough for him to find a defense? You can see here the gunbots are doing okay against the blinks. But when the snipers show up, is that just going to be an issue all over again? I would actually love to see some gunbots have split away on the other side. Oh, we're going to see Falcon showing up. So he's actually got an air unit or air units on the way here. Are they good enough against those snipers? It looks like they are. The Falcons are coming in. The snipers are getting chased down. So it is looking as though Stefan's going to find himself a defense. Now David Kim on the retreat with the natural expansion coming back up. But again, the workers don't finish building on that base for about a minute once the base is built. So that means it takes a while to actually get that set up. We're now going to be seeing the Heavy Hunter being built. That's an anti-air unit, and that's going to be David Kim's response to try and deal with those Falcons in the skies from Stefan. The Falcons are a pretty slow-moving kind of air-to-ground unit. So if you can shut those down, the Blink Force might be able to do well once again. Again, just a question mark of did we get a little bit too aggressive there, get caught a little bit too much. That's the weakness of them snipers, I imagine. Slow to retreat, difficult to pull out of the fight. And so if you do get caught in a fight you can't really win, you're going to lose them. Like, there's not really any getting home with those. As we're going to see David Kim. One thing I'm actually noticing in a lot of these games that we actually got pretty good at in the alpha was map vision. There's been no vision on the top side. I was going to say that's allowing a lot of these base trading situations to happen because David Kim had no idea this army came down the left, so he did not stay at home. Instead, he was caught in the middle of the map. It is very easy to just send a unit up to the top side and watch that pathway into that left side avenue. As we're going to see a little bit of, again, a base-on-base battle, but this is definitely looking to be a defense from David Kim because he's going to have those heavy hunters going after the Falcons. He's going to spawn in some Crusaders, some extra Blinky Boys, and is it going to be enough? He spent all of the money that he's got. These units over there are going to kill the base, but can he do enough? It doesn't look like it. He comes back over. He is going to be losing this army. That means his main base is likely going to fall, which is, of course, the end of the game, and he knows that he's not going to win the base trade. Too much power here. He tried to get an answer up for those Falcons, but he just couldn't get there in time. And without getting there in time, he really ends up in just a position where he can't do too much about it. So, very cool game because you got to see really a defense on one side, defense on another. What's a little bit tough right now in casting these games, it's very difficult to show you guys kind of the tech that's coming online because we're not watching from an observer interface, so we can't see, oh, he's building into this tech and that's about to come online. That's one of these things that the players are kind of checking themselves, but it's happening so quickly that's hard to pick up while casting. So, one of those things which I think will make this game more fun to watch is that when we have the observer interface, we can actually watch in game properly. Is that we'll actually be able to tell the story better of, oh, he's on the way to this, that's going to allow that to happen, etc. And all of these kind of things. So that's another kind of thing. I think we're going to do one more game here to round out this video, guys. So let's jump into one final map. of this Uncapped Games RTS. So it's going to be our last game we cast in this first video. One more game of David Kim against Stefan, as we have a different unit composition against. There's going to be Scorpion, Beetle, 2 units that were not in the version of the game we got to play. A lot of these units are new to us as well, so again, not having a chance to play with them. But instant expand on both sides, that is the most common way to play. There are 1 base all-ins. A lot of people figured those out. Fear Dragon, looking at you. But yeah, there's going to be Scorpions. It's going up against a recall style. I don't think we've seen the recall in this video yet. Recall basically allows you to recall to your bases very frequently, so you can use that aggressively and defensively. It's actually really cool, some of the plays you can make with it. We'll see how it goes here. I'm not sure how the Scorpions do. These are melee units. I think they're just kind of fairly fast-moving melee units that just go pow, pow, pow. They pincer in. So you will see an immediate third base here from both sides. So both players are going to go to a third. That's pretty typical of the recall side. I know more about that. Recall wants to take that third base and defend. The recall units themselves can kind of stand and fight a little bit more easily. As I'm very surprised David Kim does not split 1 Scorpion a bit to the northwest of here just to watch that entry into his natural expansion. It's so easy to then watch for, and recall units are so good at running in there, getting like 1 or 2 workers and just recalling out, so they're a little bit slow moving, but he would have been able to do it, as the Scorpions are going to come to the front. Let's see how these recall defenses are going to look. Looking like he's got enough right now. I'm not sure, like I say, I've not played with the Scorpions, so I'm not sure how well they're going to trade. As we're going to be seeing Starforge on the way up, actually on the side of the recall player. The Starforge actually allows you to build an advanced recall as well, which is very intriguing. So that's actually something that kind of buffs your ground army while also giving you an air option. Makes it difficult for your opponent to kind of like, you know, straight up counter you because you're not sure what exactly you're going to end up building. Right now, David Kim is just building Master Scorpions, but he's also teching into the Foundry while taking a 4th base on both sides. The Foundry tech for David Kim is a Bomber, which is kind of like a Baneling-based unit. And also, I think that is the Swift Shocker, I believe. Yeah, I think that's the Swift Shocker that he has as well, which is going to be his version of splash damage in this. I imagine, actually, against recall units can't split apart as quickly because they're sort of slow moving, so I think he's going to probably build Bombers when he gets that tech online. Not a lot happening just yet, as we've just really expanded up, but you say not a lot happening, there's also only 2 minutes in the game. Obviously, big armies starting to amass. Very intriguing. David Kim really, again, focusing around this bottom side. More tech on the side of Stefan, so he's actually going to go 4 bases now, a secondary set of tech. He's going to go Advanced Starforge. He's going to go into the Cat Bus. It's quite literally an airship which looks like a cat. It meows. It's great. Well, here we go. These are the Bombers. These are the Baneling units. Okay, brilliant pre-split. That's very important. Because without that pre-split, these units can't really kind of pull apart very easily. As this is going to be a big fight, we're going to actually recall these units back. What that actually allows you to do is A, bring reinforcements here, and B, it brings those units that are a bit spread out now into a clump when there's no Bombers left. So it makes the melee units a little bit worse against them trying to get us around. I actually feel like typically I would expect the recall army to do pretty well against an army like this, especially with some of these, I don't know how to say it, but there's the advanced recall guys in here as well. They're pretty good, but yeah, you see the Bombers actually getting huge damage done. Diving in and actually gets a wrap around on that army, and now the Scorpion's able to overwhelm a little bit. Well, yeah, basically, without the Bombers, this Scorpion force looks terrible against the recall, but with the Bombers able to connect, like I say, Bombers feel really good against recall because there's just not the mobility to kind of deal with those Bombers like there might be with the other kind of baseline units, like Blink and Blink around them. The Gunbots can run away from them more easily. I imagine Scorpions, I wonder if they're just tanky enough to kind of absorb some of the Bomber shots. It's going to be, yeah, I was going to say, I think we're going to see Cat Busters, and the Cat Busters pop out, so these are the Cat Busters, and they have cat ears and all sorts, but they're good, but I don't know if they're good enough to deal with the fact that we've got units on top of your base. We see a counterattack top left, so that top left base is going to be under fire. It's going to go down. We recall away just before the Bombers get there as well, so we recall down over here to help win the fight on the ground. And so Stefan is going to be able to hold the third, although no workers left on it. We are just going to send these Cat Busters forward. We get rid of some of the Bombers before they connect in. Anti-air units coming out as well, going to try and push through. Those are the Beetles. I've not seen the Beetles yet in play either. I'm not sure what the Beetles do. I think they're actually kind of like a bit of a lock-on unit. I think they fire like missiles. They are an anti-air unit, and they're not really meant to fight ground forces, so I guess they are kind of what you want against a Cat Bus. Question is, can we get enough of them out? The recall units here as well trying to help the Bombers. We'll try and clean that up. The Cat Busters, are they enough? More Cat Busters showing up to the bottom left-hand side. We're going to see more recalls coming across as well. And desperate attempt to break down this third base. We need the recall units here because we've got to get rid of these Beetles so the Cat Bus can survive. I think the Cat Bus, this is tier 3 tech, and they are able to take out the tier 1 anti-air, and that's going to be good enough. There was no additional anti-air tech from David Kim, and so he's not able to actually deal with the power of those Cat Bus. like I say, the Cap Bus is that kind of tier 3 layer of tech, and because of that, they are able to kind of really come through and really kind of just be a little bit too powerful. So I think this is a scenario where David Kim did not really tech up. So you can see right here, I think, when he goes back to his selection, he didn't choose any other tech. So he isn't invested into like a tier 3 tech or anything. In fact, the rest of his anti-air units, you can see if it's anti-air because it has this little symbol on the unit in the build tab. He didn't go into any anti-air on his foundry tech. I think maybe this is a foundry tech unit as well. But yeah, I don't think he needed to go further on his tech tree to get anti-air because of the way he's built his deck. And so Stefan probably noticed this. He's like, hey, if I can get to Cap Burst, you don't have a good anti-air option. And so he goes Advanced Starforge, which is a very risky play. Makes him get into a lot of trouble, but he gets it online in time to say, right, now I've got the Cap Burst. What is your answer? And the answer was not really an answer at all from David Kim. So very cool, again, idea of kind of how you're seeing this strategy play out. Seeing some of these earlier fights kind of be influential as well. And what could David Kim have done differently based on the fact that Cap Bursts were coming up? I wonder if he could have maybe tried to counterattack a bit more. I mean, right now in this moment, it feels like he won the fight. Maybe he could have gone for another base and maybe slowed down some eco, stop more Cap Bursts coming up. Like I said, I'm not sure how the Scorpions work in terms of splitting up, so maybe that just wouldn't have been viable. I've not gone to play with these units, but again, interesting to kind of think through these options. As that's going to be the last game we cover for this right now, guys. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the game. Like I say, I love this game. I really loved playing it. And I think if you weren't quite sold on the gameplay watching it, but you're still, if you like RTS, I would still say give it a try. Yes, it doesn't have that base building aspect, but this game for me, when I first saw a video, I was like, eh. And when I played it, I was like, oh, this is it. So personally, my recommendation is when you can get your hands on this, go give it a shot. I know it's not playable just yet, but super fun to play, super fun to get into, super fun to try out. For me, this was really what sold me on the game. Because once you start playing, you can appreciate so many of these moves and what's going on and like the chaos of it all. Yeah, super fun. Really love this game. Hope it has success. Let me know if you enjoyed it down in the comments. And I'll see you guys next time for more coverage on this Uncapped Games RTS, which at the time of recording, we don't know the name of, by the way. That's why I've not mentioned it, but I'm sure the name will be in the title. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.